Joining me now is former Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett. Thank you so much for being here, former Prime Minister.
Thank you.
Now, this latest ceasefire proposal is getting mixed reactions in Israel. What's your reaction to hearing of the details of this proposal?
Well, I think it's a game that the commander of Hamas, Sinwar, is playing. He doesn't want a deal. What he wants to do is exhaust Israel in an ongoing war of more and more months to come. And he's playing cat and mouse tactics because there's 120 hostages, of which 41 have been killed or murdered by Hamas. He's playing with a few hostages here and there and not willing really to release the hostages. And I think this is a result of a very lukewarm policy of the Israeli government and the American administration, because it means that Sinwar does not feel he's an imminent threat. And the way to solve all of this is to go full force, and he needs to understand that we're coming to kill him, and then maybe there'll be a deal.
Yeah. Well, if you were Prime Minister, though, would you accept this proposal?
I don't think there is any proposal here, because they're talking about 3 phases in theory, and as I said, it's a game. I want you to understand Iran and Hamas's joint strategy. They want this to go on forever. That's why they'll dangle 3 hostages here, another 5 over there. They're not willing to do a deal to make the whole thing stop. And when you say a deal, it means both sides can meet somewhere in the middle. But fundamentally, here's what Hamas wants. They want to destroy Israel. And what Israel wants is to live. So fundamentally, there's a contradiction in the goals of the 2 sides. Hamas isn't looking for some compromise or some land agreement. They want to destroy all of Israel. They say it explicitly. And they say that once there's a ceasefire, they're going to attack us again and again with more October 7th massacres.
And you're also saying that, that there are 2 sides to this. There's also the 2 pressure points for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I wonder, which one do you think is greater, responding to the demands of these hostage families or listening to the far-right wing of his coalition in the hopes of holding on to his government?
Well, I think there's always politics is part of the deal, but in this particular case, actually, the 2 goals coincide, because right now, Sinwar should not have been in a position where he can begin dictating things. We can complete the destruction of Hamas. The deal needs to be a different deal, a simple one, where we tell Sinwar, look, we're coming to destroy you and the leadership of Hamas. If you wave a white flag, we will allow you to get on a ship, get out of there if you release the hostages. That's the deal. What we need to stop is this vacillation of war, not war, war, not war. You can't fight a war if you turn it on and off. Think of a boxing match. Let's say you hit your opponent and he's wobbling. The last thing you do is send him home for a month to recuperate and come back. Yet that's exactly what the American administration and Israeli government are doing. That's a mistake. We need to go in, tell him, you've got one option. It's to release the hostages. Otherwise, we're coming to get you. Yeah. That would do the job.
I also want to ask you, though, last week, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that Israel must decide if its military campaign in Gaza and the incremental gains against Hamas are worth the unintended horrific consequences, including the cost to civilian lives. What's your view of that?
The cost to civilian lives always hurts. In this particular war, it's the lowest collateral damage ratio in the history of urban warfare. There's roughly 15,000 Hamas fighters and terrorists that we've killed, and unfortunately 15,000 Gaza civilians that have been killed, usually because Hamas uses them as a human shield. This is lower than Afghanistan, lower than Iraq, lower than Vietnam, World War I and World War II. It's the lowest ratio in the history of the world. Yet there's some obsession regarding Israel. The whole world thinks that we need to run this war with, 17,000 people second-guessing Israel and telling Israel how to conduct the war. It's never happened in the history of warfare that a country is being looked upon in such an obsessive way. There's some obsession syndrome about Israel, and it's unfair, and we need to win.
And I understand you're saying that you need to win, but there are people who are saying that women and children, that they've suffered at rates and ratios that are disproportionate and that are really heartbreaking. So I wonder, as a former prime minister, do you feel like these incremental gains are worth these consequences to civilians?
These are not incremental gains, Yamish.
So is it worth the consequences, then, is merely the question? The civilians that are dying, do you think it's worth the consequences?
We have a genocidal terror organization on our border that slaughtered 1,400 Israelis, that is raping right now as we speak Israeli women that are being held captive. They are telling us they will continue forever until they destroy Israel. What other options do we have? What would you do?
Well, I have not been a prime minister, so I'm going to leave that to you. But I hear your point, saying that it's essentially you think it's worth it because of what you're up against here.
Look, we're fighting someone who wants to kill my own children. I know you've got a boy. There's a boy called Kfir Bibas, the age of your own son, in Gaza right now, a year and a half old.
Yeah.
These are barbarians, savages that belonged to hundreds of years ago. We have no choice but to do away with Hamas. And we expect that the American public and American administration should support us on this, so we just get it done instead of us wavering and dithering on and on this war.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and answering my questions, former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And after the break, the Texas Supreme Court rejects a legal challenge to the state's near total ban on abortions. I'll talk to one of the plaintiffs behind the case and a lead lawyer for the Center for Reproductive Rights about where the fight goes from here. You're watching Meet the Press now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.